Well, hello everyone. It is Black Mountain Talks, and today we are proudly presenting you Andrei Martyanov, who is an expert on Russian military and naval issues. And he was born in Baku, USSR, graduated from Kirov Naval Red Banner Academy, and served as an officer on the ship staff position of Soviet Coast Guard. And now he is living in the US, and he is an author of books like Losing Military Supremacy and The Real Revolution in Military Affairs. Andrei, we are very happy to see you here.
My pleasure.
Yeah. So, and we have a lot of questions to you, but I think the most important question today, it is like Tucker Carlson's interview and reaction to this interview, because well, not to exaggerate, but I think the whole world was watching it and the whole world was waiting for it. And what are your comments on this topic?
Oh, very simple. I mean, honestly, I didn't comment on this yet. I just opened the open thread on my blog and let people go at it. But I think so. It's extremely important, and it is the process of the, how to put it in a simpler terms, demolition of the corporate legacy media, because they have been exposed as the propaganda machine and nothing more. And obviously you can this is apart from the other issues, which it's warranted and irresistible comparison between Mr. Biden and Mr. Putin, in terms of mental state and in terms of how people present themselves, style, and clarity of thoughts. So in this particular respect, it's just absolutely important. And fact is, it could be in some sense the start of the turning point, if you wish. But again, apart from the geostrategic issues which have been covered by President Putin, and if you listen and read to my friends today, like Scott Ritter or Larry Johnson and people like that, the issue, of course, was that, as I already stated, for me personally, it is most important that it's the contrast, like the antibiotic, which have been introduced into the infection, against the corporate legacy media in the West, exposing them for what they are. They are liable in, for example, crimes against humanity and war crimes. They're propaganda machine, and now it's becoming clear.
Yeah, and there was a good joke in Russia, on Russian Telegram, that if you don't like Putin to be interviewed by Tucker Carlson, we can advise Solovyov to be taking interview from Biden at the same time.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think we can move on to next topic. I think Mike has questions now to our guest. Mike, you're welcome.
Yeah, thank you. Well, yeah, it's Andrei. So it was a long time since we talked together with my Krupa's channel. I'm glad you're here, and good to see you.
Good to see you.
Yeah. So this interview was particularly interesting because it was intended for the Western audience. Who know the Russian history. Putin didn't say anything unusual, anything new that for the people, let's say from the Eastern Europe or from the former Soviet Union, but that his approach to history, how he for I think about 45 minutes he talked about in deep, so it's going almost 1,000 years. 1,000 years behind. So what do you think? Should that be maybe a little bit shorter, or it was actually a good lesson so that people who are not familiar, so that they can finally learn the stuff?
Well, Tucker in the beginning stated that at first he thought it was a filibustering, but then it was 25 minutes, his introduction to Russian history. So I think so it was warranted. I found no evidently by the reaction of the people I observed today all across the this World Wide Web, internet, it was totally fine with them, and people actually appreciated this. But even Tucker said, but after that, the more he continued with the history, he understood that it was totally warranted, and it was totally genuine. So it's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, it's interesting how President Putin actually knows that those details and how he talk about that. He's really deep into the history. Besides, he's also an intelligence officer, but he really knows his stuff, and he presented that on an amazing way. I would say very simple, but very strong.
Well, if you look at his history, obviously, and considering the fact that he is a graduate of the Red Banner Institute, which was known as Andropov Institute. Nowadays, it's an academy of the foreign intelligence. He was obviously director of FSB before he became the prime minister. So the guy has a background. He also grew up in Leningrad, and as you might understand, the city, although very young by Russian standard, steeped in tradition and heroism and tragedy. So it affects you. And of course, when you grow up in this cultural environment, surrounded by the incredible art culture, and St. Petersburg is just unrivaled, pretty much, And you're gonna know a lot of things about Russian history, and so now when he's a president, and of course the way he and his reference and his aides work, and combined with his background, educational and professional background, there you go. You have the statesman, and he presents himself as a statesman.
Yeah, it was funny yesterday also when President Biden show up for his I don't even know how to call that. When you compare that,
Yeah,
I mean, it is not good to laugh with how one
I know.
old man do that. I mean, with respect to his age, but can't be compared. Really, it was not. I couldn't even call it a disaster for President Biden.
It is a disaster. We know what is going on there, but that's what I spoke about literally 5 minutes ago when I stated that it should be the end of the legacy media who are complicit in what is happening now demonstrably in front of all public. In fact, it's a manifest. It's almost deliberate abuse of the old man. However corrupt and bad he is, and he is corrupt, his whole family is just some kind of the criminal syndicate or whatever. But I mean, his place is not even in jail. His place in the senior facility, being taken care, nursing home, with a high-level nursing home. But that's where he belongs. And yet those people continue to convince everybody that, what, he's fine. Look at him. He's, just so. That is it is a complete disgrace. I mean, it is so unacceptable, and especially when you talk about that United States still is the nuclear superpower, and the guy carries with this, this nuclear football with him, So it's just like, what people obviously, and Putin stated yesterday, which everybody understands who is not completely brainwashed in the combined West, that actually Biden is just merely a figurehead for the most part. He is run by the cabal of the neocons in his administration. It is also Obama administration, former Obama administration, utterly incompetent people on any matter of their statesmanship. So there you go, and as a result, we have this catastrophe, essentially, a disaster.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So, but this interview is going to ring through the ages. I would say. I checked; it was 140 million almost views, and it's unbelievable. We are witnessing something very unusual in the modern time.
Well, it's 140 million on Tucker's platforms.
Yeah,
there are other platforms which are not counted, and you get into like some platform which is bang 300,000 people, and it's not views, and it's not even Tucker. It's somebody else just streaming it from Tucker.
Yeah,
and it's of course now begins to live in its own life in, for example, YouTube. And yes, I mean, it's a very important geopolitical statement from Russian side made by President Putin, and obviously it is a shock for many people. It's not going to change minds of people who are completely and strategically, so to speak, positioned into the corner of neocons. And again, there are no real professionals in foreign policy and military strategy who are in Biden administration, but it's not going to change their mind. But at least the message has been conveyed, and many people understood it. And that matters in the long run because it changes public opinion slowly. So
So let the other side speak. It's fair enough. Lena?
Yeah. So I would have two questions, one for you, Andrei, and one for you, Mike, regarding the interview. So let's start with Andrei. What do you think, or who do you think was the real target of this interview? Who are the targeted people? Putin, as it seemed, tried to deliver a message. So he prepared carefully a history lesson for half an hour, which was very important. I mean, the information was very important. But as we all know, the Western people don't like to listen too long to history. Who will receive the message, and who did he aim for?
I mean, broadly to the Western public, obviously, but it also was the message to the so-called political elite or governing elites in the West. And it was implied, actually, then that, you know what, here's the ball in your corner, do whatever you want to do with it. Russia is moving basically the way she moves now. And it doesn't matter what you do, unless you come to the table. And then we will discuss the conditions for the surrender. That's pretty much it.
Definitely, yeah. Yes. So, Mike, the next one goes to you. Putin said at one point, and it was very interesting for me, he said that Yeltsin, back when Belgrade was bombed, and you were bombed as well at this time, you were one of the guys that received these bombs. Putin said that President Yeltsin understood everything at this time. And I can't make sense out of this. What is your opinion? And Andrei, if you have an opinion, you can also add. Yeah.
Well, President Yeltsin, he knew about that. He knew he had a background because, of course, intelligence services they serve him information. But bear in mind, it was the end of 1990s. Russia was weak. Russia was weak, so there is nothing that Russia can really do except do some political support or maybe send us some very, very light weapons. But President Putin said, yeah, Yeltsin was aware, of course, and that moving of company of paratroopers, desantniki, from Bosnia to Pristina airport, it was actually order from the high level, I believe. So that was something that actually helped us. So at least we knew that we are not completely alone. And I will also praise the President Lukashenko, because he was the one who came to Belgrade, and he came. During the bombing, not exactly during the bombing raids, but NATO planes were in the air at that time, so people knew that. But geopolitical situation in end of 1999 was completely different than it was now. Russia was weak. We all know that 1990s were extremely hard. So Russia was in very, very bad situations. So. I mentioned yesterday on another interview that if situation is 99 is like today, that we have a really, really strong Russia, it will be a completely different story. So NATO will never do what they have done to us in 1999. And I also mentioned that if we have just 1% of the stuff that Ukraine had in February 2022. They will never attack us. Not even mentioning how much support they're getting from the Western countries. just 1%, and it will never be war in 1999. But the time's changing, so it was different time. President Yeltsin inherited Russia in a very very bad time, so he has done whatever was in his power. He was not a brilliant leader, I can say that, and he made a lot of mistakes. But that was almost like a childbirth of the new country. So Russia after that, Russia rose from the ashes. The ashes that are left after the collapse of the Soviet Union, which I think is geopolitical, one of the largest geopolitical mistakes ever happened. Yes. So, yeah.
Okay. Thank you. So I will come to the next question. Andrei, just a second. So I remember very good. It was maybe a year ago when I listened to your podcast, and you said back then that there will be a tribunal where all the Western war criminals and so on will be prosecuted, and I absolutely agree. And I was thinking all the time, how is it possible? How to get them to this tribunal? Now, President Putin spoke in this interview with Tucker about denazification. What is denazification? And he said he's going to achieve it through negotiations. First, what is your opinion about achieving denazification through negotiations? And second, how do you imagine that the war criminals will be brought to justice?
The Ukrainian, so to speak, war criminals will be brought to justice by the means of FSB and Ministry of Internal Affairs and the Rosguard. They will be caught and will be delivered. And we already know that the tribunal is being formed as we're speaking right now in Moscow. Yes. And there is actually there some person in, pardon me.
No problem.
Yeah, just let me, I don't know why this thing is.
No problem.
Yeah, and there is some person in the Ministry of the Foreign Affairs in Russia who is responsible for formation of this tribunal. There is an ambassador in charge of that. So, per Western war criminals, there are war criminals, there are people from the intelligence services and special services, especially from London and Washington. We're talking about CIA, MI6, and people of that nature, who are complicit in the crimes against humanity and war crimes, including, of course, attacks on the civilian objects, including the basically execution of the civilians under their supervision. And there are other issues which are related to this, including shooting down, for example, what amounts to a civilian plane, like it was in IL-76. This hasn't been done just by Ukrainians. It has been done from basically permission of the people in Washington, D.C. So, and there will be charges most likely leveled at them. Their names will be called. Their names will be stated in the open. I don't think so. They will be there, so to speak, closed, for the public elaborations on this matter. And as the result, they would probably need to stay within the United States for now, once it's kind of, stated. And then, of course, the process starts on how they should be, handed to, tribunal. Oh, will they be handed? Obviously, it's the second issue. But what is most important, those people and their names will be called. They will be stated in the open. And after that, they should really kind of take care of themselves.
Yes, I understand. Yeah, thank you. The next question is for both. Mr. Putin said in this interview, if regular NATO troops enter Ukraine, it would be the start of World War III or something like this. And now we had Medvedev several days ago. He said when NATO starts a war with Russia, then the response would be immediately nuclear. So I'm trying to bring both expressions together. I think that Putin or Mr. Putin is referring to the entering of a single NATO nation into the war, and Medvedev is referring to the whole NATO bloc into the war. What is your opinion? You can choose who want to answer.
Andrei, you go first.
Oh, well, it's two separate things, actually. Medvedev was talking about the issue. By the way, there is a very specific clause in first Russian military doctrine, and of course, there is the algorithm, so to speak, described in the many classified documents of the operational strategic level of how you approach the nuclear threshold. The clause in the Russian military doctrine is very specific. When the war conducted by the conventional means threatens the existence of the Russian state, then, of course, Russia can respond with the nuclear weapons. Medvedev was doing this merely to remind people. It has actually, he a little bit pushed the envelope, which is not there, honestly.
Yeah.
But Putin was very specific that, no, he was talking not about one nation. He was talking even if the United States, essentially, that's what NATO is, enters there with its troops, as the Great Britain offered, a few days ago with this expeditionary force. I don't know what will be the British expeditionary force, like what, cattle brigade of people who don't know what their gender. So, but the point is that Russia has the escalation dominance on the conventional way in terms of the conventional war conducted by the unified NATO force. Especially Russia has the ability to interdict lines of communications, which are critical in supplying. Well, and even today, it's not even that critical, except for manpower, because United States is not the United States of World War II, when they called themselves Arsenal of Democracy and could deliver a lot of supplies. Today, it's absolutely not the case. So Putin was saying, indeed, about the conventional war, if NATO wants to introduce the troops in Ukraine. Once NATO introduced the troops in Ukraine, all bets are off, and basically Russia has the ability to conduct their very large-scale combined arms operations against the let's say the basing points and the deployed forces already in NATO territory. And you have to understand, the algorithm is pretty simple. The only thing NATO can do is to try to inflict some kind of damage on Kaliningrad area. There are some, crazy people who think that it's possible. Once they try to do this, Brussels will be leveled together with their NATO headquarters without any nuclear weapons. And that's the whole thing. And many people, for example, in Pentagon, on the operational level, all those, colonels, and brigadier generals, they do understand that. So Putin was actually specific, very specific, in avoiding mentioning of the nuclear weapons. But Mr. Medvedev is the bad cop in the good bad cop tandem with Mr. Putin. So, and he is allowed to be firebrand that he is, and he does it, believe me, he does it sincerely. This is not some kind of the role he plays. He just, he's the kind of guy. So the NATO better pray that he doesn't become next president again, So because that would be, well, that's what is this all about. I don't see anything specifically dangerous or escalatory in those statements. It's just statements of the facts. And again, do not forget, there are about 400,000 Russian troops which hasn't been introduced yet to the battlefield, and Russia can mobilize 2.2 million immediately if she needs, and she has the economic, military, industrial wherewithal to supply those people, arm and equip them, and this is not going to be good for NATO if they decide to do something stupid like that.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, I would add with this, NATO troops are already in Ukraine. We're talking about special forces. So British SAS, SBS, some special forces from France, former, foreign legionnaires, which are very good trained in infantry tactics. So from Portugal, Spain, Canada, of course, Joint Task Force. People are there, and they're providing support, they're providing training, and they're conducting operations. So when I mentioned French Foreign Legion, of course there is I think 70% or 60% of French region are actually people from the Eastern Europe. So a lot of people from Ukrainian regions, and it's simple. If they can be ordered to go, because French foreign legionnaire is doing what he's ordered to do. So if the French government and his command request his presence in Ukraine, of course he will go. He will change uniform. It's not a big deal. French uniform will be changed for Ukrainian uniform, and that's it. There are foreign volunteers, especially recently talking about Colombians, people from or other poor countries, that they hope that they will be paid to do the stuff. So Ukraine became a mixed match of everything. But foreign to call them representatives, they're suffering casualties. When you look at in the news on the West, suddenly a lieutenant colonel in his mid-40s die without any explanation, or helicopter crash here and there. That is the way how they're going to cover that. Or U.S. general crashed and died while piloting his private plane. Yeah, of course, the stories are always there. So casualties are happening, and they are not easy to swallow for NATO. Now, if there are plans, every military include performing the operational and strategic games, to call that games. They are planning how they're going to put the troops, how they're going to do supplies, and of course there is a plan. There is a plan to get into the Lviv. There is a plan to go to Volyn and the Western Ukraine. So, which units are they going to be? Polish brigades, or it can be mixed brigades, or there is a plan how to defend Baltic states, because this is something that militaries are doing. But for now, it is just a matter of planning, because armies and general staffs they're playing with contingencies. I can't agree more with Andrei that Western military, especially U.S. military, is not the same military that they had in 1945 or even 1991 when they invaded Iraq. This is just a remnants of that stuff. And I laugh when Andrei said that they don't know which gender, for instance, for the British military. This is absolutely true. British military can be fit into the Wembley Stadium. Combat units can fit into the third league stadium. So even if they on paper they're talking about unity, they're talking about strength, except air forces on those countries, land forces which need to go there, they need to set foot into Ukraine, and they will be first exposed to the Russian response. There is nobody who can do that. We can talk about Estonian, Lithuanian, or Latvian troops. Are they going to do anything? Let's be realistic. There is no chance that it's going to happen. But plans exist. The military headquarters, they're doing games. They're planning what kind of logistics they need, what number of people they need. But also, they need now, if they decide to do that, they have to play also with Belarus. And Belarus will react. Of course, because they and also that I think it's a Suwalki corridor between Kaliningrad and Russia, Kaliningrad and Belarus. So that will be one of the potential theaters for the military escalation. And as Andrei said, if they just move against Kaliningrad, there is no Warsaw, there is no Berlin, there is no Brussels. So it's, of course, in the plans they will do that. That's something that military is doing, but in reality, well, it's quite different.
Yes, I understand. Okay, thank you for that. Let's move to the next one. This was very interesting for me during the interview. Mr. Putin showed a few examples of previous empires' rise and fall. Eventually, he said that today's processes are much quicker than the one of 500 years ago. And then he smiled, and Tucker smiled as well. Andrei, can you interpret this? What is your opinion about it?
Oh no, he's absolutely correct. It's dramatically increased in terms of speed because of the speed of the exchange of the information. Today you get the instant information. We're speaking, from different continents. You see in the immediate responses, so to speak. So yeah, and because of this incredible speed of the informational exchange, so yeah, things happen very fast. And of course, we also have to keep in mind that even empires is kind of like Russia defines herself now not as empire, and Russians are not interested in the classic empire business, with the metropoly and those colonies. Russia is bizarre empire, so to speak. So it's more like a civilization. So it's but United States tried to be an empire and it failed at that very fast, really. So it's precisely because the situation changed and the dynamics, economic dynamics, scientific, industrial, what have you, changed also dramatically. And now you have the nuclear weapons, which suppress outbursts of the which make war between superpowers rather unlikely. Okay. So, and that all factors into the situation which we have today. What American empire really existed primarily since the World War One, most of it anyway, and it's over for now because the whole world actually is in the uprising, and it relates not only to the United States but to the combined West. Just to give you an example, Russia kicked out French out of the Sahel and from Africa, and Mr. Macron is suffering because of that. He's very bitter, and that's why he wants to inflict some pain on Russians. Well, good luck with that. So, and there you go. So yeah, it's really difficult to draw historical parallels nowadays. I am on the record for years. When you draw historic parallels, you have to be very cautious because obviously the circumstances change dramatically, and that changes the dynamic of, let's say, the fall of the empires. U.S. empire, yeah, let's say, existed for 100 years now. It's in the process of the dissolution. It used to be called Pax Americana, but the last colonies which United States has today, realistically, this is Europe.
Yes,
absolutely.
Of course. So thank you for that. Let's go to the next question. The next question is again for both, and it's about Zaluzhny. It looks like that he's now eventually sacked. I don't know. Sometimes he is, sometimes he isn't, but it looks like he is now. And what are the implications going forward, especially because Sirsky was appointed? Yeah, I consider it also funny because Sirsky is known for his failed offensive operations where hundreds of thousand people, Ukrainians, died. And I thought that the Ukrainians want to do some kind of defensive operation, but how to do it with Sirsky? It's impossible. So what are your thoughts, guys?
Absolutely makes no difference whatsoever. So, and if anybody thinks that actually Zaluzhny was much better, he was not. I mean, and what again makes no difference who. Okay, just get the best generals from Pentagon and place them there, whatever their best is defined nowadays in the U.S. military, probably because they are, bootlickers, and just want to promote their political careers. But it won't make any difference whatsoever because you look at the numbers, and you look at the numbers not on a tactical but on operational level, which defines the combat effectiveness of the force as such. And yeah, whatever, put Napoleon there, makes no difference. So Manstein, hey, Erich von Manstein, here's the example. Now get Erich von Manstein and put him in charge of the armed forces of Ukraine, even in the February 2022. He won't have been able to do much. So there you go.
Yeah, it's just the matter of names and the matter of approach. But if the situation is good and everything is going well, nobody's going to change the key people, especially on the top of the military. And behind all of those people now, behind the Zaluzhny and his staff and General Sirsky, there are other people who are actually doing the planning. But this shake-up is something that is going to change anything. Nothing is going to happen. I mean, because situation in the battlefield is something that can be on this level can be influenced. But it showed that there is some crisis within the Ukrainian leadership. So now somebody said that I read somewhere because the General Sirsky is ethnic Russian. So that he's obeying Zelensky's order without any question. I posted on Twitter that for the moment it's not for me that it's like finding the scapegoat, finding somebody to blame, because the situation on the front line is not going well, and somebody that is not, let's say, ethnic Ukrainian with the Western Ukraine, but rather somebody that has more connections, medical connections with Russia. It's look good if that person is blamed. General Sirsky, he's a competent officer. He was brought in and educated in the Soviet Union. Of course, at that time of the Soviet Union, he was the junior officer. He was not on the general staff, but he's doing what his job is. Now, is that going to change anything? Yeah, I saw some comments that he's now going to blindly obey the orders. He's the general. Let general do his stuff. So people now try making joke that he lost several battles. But we should look at that in some wider picture. The overall status of Ukrainian military is that everything depends on the Western donation and Western help. If that yarn that is connecting them, if that yarn start to break, it is going to it will be like a domino effect. Nobody's questioning the bravery of Ukrainian defenders, but it's not the same army that started the war in 2022. Casualties are huge, enormous for the country, and changing the strategic command structure. Zelensky didn't fire only Zaluzhny, all of his deputies. So it means that the command structure is shaking, and you are not doing that in the situation when your opponent is actually advancing on the front line. But it's not like a World War II, big pushes, big arrows. It's a grinding. It's a war. It's a war of attrition, which Russia is performing very well, excellent, because it's grinding Ukrainian manpower. And look at the situation in Avdiivka. It is cold one. There is one way. Only one line is open enough so that the reinforcement can come. But it's attracting Ukrainians to put more and more equipment, more and more troops there. And Western resources, no matter how people think about that, they're not limitless. And we will see that in this war of attrition. It's like a box match. The guy who is standing last is going to win. And behind Russia, there is a complete. First, people support that. The second thing, Russian industry, Russian military, it's set up for this. And Russia, as Andrei mentioned, 400,000 people not introduced yet into the combat, but those people can be brought to the front line very fast. They're behind. Russia can do rotation. Russia can put reserves. Ukraine can do that. No matter how they're trying to mobilize now 500,000 people, hunting people on the streets. That is not how war should be waged. So the time is not working for Ukraine, definitely. And next few months will be probably critical because Russia has momentum. But it's not momentum on the World War II scale. It is slowly, but what is more important, steady. And
Yes.
that steady advance on the certain, probing the enemy lines, advancing here and there. If the troops need to retreat somewhere, yes, yeah, do that. But it's constant. This war of attrition is something that is grinding Ukrainian military abilities, and no changes in Ukrainian leadership. No matter who they put, as Andrei said, they can bring the U.S. general staff, and you know what? They're already there. Advisors are already there. They're living in the hotels in Kiev or even in the embassy, and they're advisors. No, not one or two. There are tens, maybe even
They
hundreds.
plan operations. They
Yeah,
plan
they're
operations from Ramstein, and that is one of the reasons why there's so much screaming and squealing and propaganda, because actually
Exactly.
operational planning by United States doesn't have general staff. They have the joint chiefs
Joint
of
chief of staff. Yeah.
yeah, and they basically they do all different services, from Air Force to Navy to what have you. Land forces bring their plans, they try to coordinate them, but it's not general staff type planning.
Yeah.
And what they do in Ramstein expose them as people who do not know how to really plan operations of scale and combined arms, multi-domain operations.
Exactly.
And this is why it is so damaging for them. They understand, many of them feel that they have been exposed. Because, hey, remember, they invented so many battles which never happened. Just to give an example, Battle of Kiev.
Yeah, Battle of Kiev never happened. Never happened. I mean, it was
Battle of Kharkov. It never happened. I mean, it hasn't been any battle there.
Yeah, it was just a bite. It was a perfect operational masking.
Yeah,
Because
so
the major attack
that.
is on south. Major attack is it's make a landline from the Crimean Peninsula to Russia.
Wow,
So that was the major.
That's
Battle
the
Kiev
point.
never happened. It happened only in some imagination.
Imagination, yeah. Well, that is why their thing which bring me any of their generals, then can he explain to me, or can he disprove me and Russian military professionals from the level of general staff who stated from the get-go, Russia never lost operational initiative.
Exactly.
It's, from the start. And many people do not understand that by the end of May 2022, it was the barely 2.5 months after the start of the operation, the armed forces of Ukraine lost the first iteration of their army. So it was completely destroyed and broken up. Yeah. So there you go. But because, again, you have to keep in mind, all actually American political and media so-called elites who are badly educated, highly uncultured people, they view war from the point of view of Hollywood. I'm not exaggerating. I'm quoting here Major General Robert Latif, PhD in physics, 20 years in DARPA. In his book, and I'm quoting from his book, everything they know about war is from entertainment industry. It's not me. You can quote General Latif. Yeah. And he explaining that some senators do not even understand how you launch satellites or how you operate those systems. They have no idea. Same goes for the most American journalists.
Yeah, exactly.
They are practically, militarily, they are morons. The only thing they know, they think that the more you capture territory and the longer is your dash in some point, the more it is just, absolutely nothing. It means nothing unless you kill your enemy. And again, as I already stated, in Clausewitz terms, you compel the enemy to do your will. You don't have to dash to Kiev to compel the enemy to do your will. Absolutely. Enough to destroy armies. Yeah. And after that, you don't dash or rush to Kiev. You march in. calmly without that's the thing which those people, and especially in Washington DC, they do not understand. Actually, a number of American generals and so-called military experts, they have no clue, because they use this false yardstick that in 1991 US military beat the bejesus out of the third-rate semi-literate Iraqi army after the half a year of repositioning forces with impunity, and they called it a military achievement. I mean, I express it all, and my fourth book is about that. I mean, those guys, they still think that they are good. Well, they are not that good. Let me put it this way.
Absolutely.
And some of them, for example, take any American general, anyone fresh from the General Staff and Command College in the Leavenworth, Kansas, for example. They wouldn't know, for example, how to run your battle on the level brigade and above, division and corps, because for example, they don't have experience with the real air defense. They have no clue what it is. They don't know how it incorporates itself. They don't know how you integrate it operationally, how it affects the operations. Because, when you look at American air defense, the only thing they have is a Patriot, and the next level down, which is the troop air defense, is of course SHORAD. What is SHORAD? SHORAD is a bunch of the Stingers incorporated on some moving platform.
Yeah, exactly.
So, look at Russian troops defense.
Oh yeah.
It's not even the same universe. They have Tor M2s, they have Panzers, they have Buks M1s and M3s and what have you. And so, how do you operate if you're not taught how to deal with that? They don't have even. That's why they failed in their operational planning. They planned again to fight the Saddam Hussein's army.
Yeah, exactly. They should read Iserson and Triandafilov works about operational art.
Not only Triandafilov, for starters, they should read Svechin, his strategy, where he actually contradicts the destruction strategy of number Iserson, Tukhachevsky and all, and he talks about the attrition, exhausting strategy, which you have to exhaust your enemy first, and then after that your big arrow offensives begin. Well, guess what? This is exactly what happened in World War II.
Operational art, simply operational art.
Yeah, very interesting discussion. Thank you, guys. I have two more questions. The next one is, there is a lot of talk in different channels and media about incoming Kharkov offensive of the Russian army. Is it possible? Is it feasible? Do you think it will happen, and how could it look like? Or is it only rumor?
Difficult to say. There is definitely movement towards Kupiansk and in general in Kharkov area, Kharkov Oblast. So, but who knows? Russian General Staff doesn't speak, and rightly so. So there's a lot of speculation. I don't speculate.
Me too, because it's not World War II that we will have now big pushes surrounding the city, because taking Kharkiv is, I don't know, it's almost 2 million people. It's not the way how things is going to happen. But when you put the pressure on a different level of front, when you stretch the enemy, that is the point that he don't know where you're going to attack, when you're going to hit, and when you hit on a multiple location at the same time. That is the way how you apply that operational art. And push the enemy. Don't let him rest, but let him that small space that he can maybe try to retreat. Look at what's happening in Avdiivka. They have that place to bring the stuff, but also they can use that to retreat. It is a pure attrition for me. And in this war of attrition, Russia has definitely upper hand.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Okay, thank you for that. And my last question, I think Lina has one more, but my last question is, what do you think about the situation in Avdiivka? Is it about to fall? Will the Russians keep it several more weeks for attrition, or what is your opinion?
classic,
Andrei.
Classic fire sack. Like it was in Bakhmut, you just allow a little bit of opening, and there were a lot of things similar of this nature. And I've been writing it from the start of the special military operation. Fire sack, open the cauldron, so to speak. Let one side be open, and let as many as Mike correctly stated, let their reserves come in, and you just kill them there. But in Avdiivka it's a little bit different, because already now it seems like it has been split in two different cauldrons. And they are just reducing them, because by now those reserves are actually at the limit for armed forces of Ukraine. Hence this practically Hitlerjugend and Volkssturm type attempt at the mobilization.
Yes.
That is why, for example, Sirsky, being absolutely butcher and the guy who absolutely doesn't care about human lives, was appointed to conduct this. We will see the 16-year-old kids already there. We already have women fighting there in large quantities, large numbers. So Avdiivka probably they will allow it to kind of boil a little bit more, but it's Russian already fight in the middle of in the center of the city, so to speak. So, and now it's a lot of it is done without contact, because there's a lot of those fabs, those gliding bombs, smart bombs flying in.
Yes.
And they are, my gosh. Again, you have to keep in mind, when this thing explodes, you can easily find it on internet. There's nothing to look at. It's just a huge explosion. Okay. It clears everything. It clears mines. It clears in the area. It just doesn't just kill their enemy soldiers. It kills their basically the system of defense there. Again, it detonates mines which have been planted there. So Avdiivka is pretty much done. It's not the matter of if, it's the matter of how they want to reduce those pockets, so to speak. And then that's pretty much it.
Avdiivka is far back. So from three sides, Russian troops advancing, absolute air superiority, artillery, which is of utmost importance, because artillery will save all troops, and Russia has complete dominance. And no matter how much reserves, how much kids they pick up from this recent mobilization and send there, there is nothing that they can do. But they will not withdraw from Avdiivka because political reasons. Every military logic is pointing that they have to retreat. But what they're going to achieve, just sacrificing people. And of course, Russia is not going to push infantry in like a World War II waves. Artillery will detect enemy position, level it, then the scouts will go forward. Gliding bombs are going to level any support. So it is simply grinding on bigger or smaller scale, but it's something that definitely will have only one outcome, and that will be complete defeat. It's hard to see, because human beings are there. Both are Slavs. They're brothers fighting brothers. That is the biggest problem, for the sake of somebody sitting far on the west. But it is what it is. So I don't think that Avdiivka will last long, but it will continue. It will continue because this is the fire back when Russia will simply attracting more and more fresh Ukrainian units. And bear in mind, there is a limited number of reserves. If they want to achieve anything, they have to send 3 fresh armor brigades just in the front line. Then they need to have 6 more brigades in reserve to exploit any achievement. They don't have that. That is the biggest problem for them.
I remember back then when
Avdiivka is done deal. Avdiivka is done deal.
Yes, I remember back then when Prigozhin was calling the Ukrainian troops into the Bakhmut fire back. But this was my last question. Thank you very much, guys. It was very interesting. I would like to hand over now to Lena. I think she has 1 or 2 questions left. And yeah, thank you very much.
Oh, thank you, Alex. Well, I had one long question. It's quite philosophical, so I will save it for the better days. I hope Andrei will come to us once more, and not only once, but I hope Andrei will be visiting us regularly. And one question I had from one of my good friends, it was like, a sarcasm of a sort. He asked, what next Wunderwaffe would possibly US send to the Ukraine after F-16 failed there?
The Death
So I
Star.
think it's more of a humor,
Yeah, yeah, you know what? So far, those unbeatable, sarcastically, of course, quote unquote, Abrams are seen only in Western Ukraine. They do not want to put them through the same fate as the Leopards and Challengers. Yeah, they have nothing what they can send. Oh, they can try to send F-22s. That would be fun for Russian air defense and VKS, which is Air Force. But yeah, I am on the record. You can quote me. I wrote 3 books, now writing 4th. United States lost the arms race to Russia. Simple as that. There's nothing in US. The only capability where United States has an edge, and even that will be closed eventually, it's the ISR, especially in terms of the satellite constellation, especially which is using the commercial satellites for dual purpose. That allows the United States to do what it does, hiding behind the backs of the Ukrainian soldiers, is to give them basically the electromagnetic picture of the battlefield. So that's the thing. But other than that, when you look at this, my gosh, this is the hollow force now. And there is nothing. They lost the arms race in missilery, and they lost it by not like years, by generations.
Yeah.
And we're not talking only about hypersonic weapons, which the United States doesn't have. Eventually, it will have it in some form, but it's going to be something which is the level of whatever is this Dark Eagle thing. They try to make this glide vehicle. So not going to happen this year, I think. And other than that, what else? I mean, we saw how the U.S. air defense performed, didn't we? So, and they still assessing this damage to the first Patriot, which has been destroyed, I believe, on March 18th, I believe, 2023. They still assessing the damage. They said it was minor. So I don't know. They have this, crater there. So whatever, they're measuring it. So that's it. Nothing they can send there. I mean, the United States simply doesn't have weapon systems which are comparable on the battlefield. We already saw what happened to the Holy Javelin. The basic assessment was about 20% effective. So there you go. There, everything you need to know.
Yeah, they're losing that supremacy definitely, and I'm quoting the title of your book. So that military supremacy that they had, let's say, 1990s, it was a lot of on paper. But now, they said, people talk, they can send F-35 or whatever. It's not just sending; they need to have somebody who is going to maintain that stuff. When we're talking about maintenance, I work on Leopard 2. I know Leopard 2 very well. It is a very good tank, but it's very complicated. But if you mention M1 is a tenfold more complicated than Leopard.
Yeah.
So if they send Leopards, what are they going to do with them? That tank is using gas turbine, and that gas turbine need additional tanker that will hold the fuel for it.
As Colonel McGregor says, when M1 drives, it is seen from the space in the infrared because the exhaust is above 1,000 degrees. I mean Fahrenheit. So it's how to say it. Yeah, there's nothing to talk about. And F-35 is the biggest boondoggle in the history of the military-industrial complex. So it's downright stupid. So.
Yeah. F-35 is such a hoax, but they're still pushing with that. Okay, I mean, so be it.
Sure, they will. They will make Europe pay for it.
Yeah, of course. Well, we're paying taxes for that. It's going to for that stuff.
Yeah, thanks a lot for your answers and for insightful discussion. And I have one more question. I think all our subscribers of Black Mountain Analysis would be very glad to hear. I know that you, Mike, and you, Andrei, are writing new books. And could you speak maybe some words about your new books?
Andrei, please. Yeah, you first.
Okay. Well, it's I can give you the working title. It might change, obviously, but it's the book about the America's final war. And this is about the fact that United States not anymore. It never was really, okay, because it was all contingent on in the war in Europe, even against the Soviet Union. They knew they still would be defeated, and it will go nuclear. But the point is, United States is not continental power, and this has been proven. So in terms of America's final war is the war that it tried against the superpower, and it has been exposed. This is what my book is about. It obviously uses the examples from the special military operation, but it is not primarily, it's half of the book is about special military operation. The second half is about how special military operation exposed this all. And it is for those people, it's written for lay people who do not have background in military or anything to explain to them why there is so much hysterical screaming on all fronts in Washington, D.C., because it has been exposed as a not ready. They didn't, and as the result, once which is of course known, the mythology of the American military might has been blown to the smithereens. Basically, the economics follows in terms of the dollar, which was basically resting on this mythology of the American military power. Now nobody is afraid of America. Yeah. So there you go. That's what special military operation did.
Yeah, looking forward for that book. Yeah, we got on my side. I finished actually with the pen and sword. The two books. One is Rockets and Missiles over Ukraine, talking about more of the technical stuff of what kind of rockets and missiles are engaged there, but also to the operations. And I saw the different comments. Some talking some were very, very positive regarding to the subject itself, but also that I'm talking more about the Russian side, like pro-Russian. No, I mean, I'm simply talking about this is the real situation. No matter how it can be painful, this is something that is really happening there. Because we are on the West, especially public is prone to believe everything that media said, but it's in reality is completely different. So, and the other is defending Putin's empire. But it's a very intriguing subject, and it was proposed by the publisher because empire can be looked at on the different ways. So empire, something I look at that the glory of the Russian weapons is actually something that exists and that will always exist. So this book is covering the Russian complete organization of Russian air defense, to the equipment, to the tactics, to the employment base. How was it during the Soviet Union, especially how is it now? And we already spoke about that multi-layered defense, how that is actually organized. So this book is actually covering that very, very important component of overall defense. And of course, shooting down the stealth fighter, how we got that guy. And it's nothing. There is nothing magic in that. So that is something that me and my colleague disclosed. That Lieutenant Colonel George Janicic, co-author of the book, we disclosed how background how we got that plane down. So there is no secret, just good training, knowing equipment, and good tactics.
Well, thank you very much for your insights, and we'll be waiting for your books to arrive. And please let us know where can we find them and to buy them. And thank you very much. It was really nice to meet all of you. And I will say goodbye here and meet you in a while. Bye bye, everyone.
Bye bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye bye.
Bye.